For those who suffer from the disorder known as autism, learning how to communicate with the outside world is often a lifetime struggle. Breakthroughs can be few and far between. In our next story, a horse whisperer attempts to unlock the inner world of a young woman with autism. Jacinthe Geschke spends most of her days at the side of her mother Lori, but she may as well be worlds apart. Jacinthe is autistic. 16 years ago, when Jacinthe was born, Lori thought her daughter was just an unusually calm child. But within a few years, Lori had to face that something wasn't quite right.
She was very inanimate. She didn't respond to anything unless she was told to. She didn't smile.
Jacinthe was too young to be tested for learning disabilities, so the Geschkes watched. They waited and hoped for the best. But as Jacinthe got older, her condition only worsened. She withdrew into a mysterious, solitary world of her own. Communicating with her became nearly impossible.
She didn't talk unless she was told what to say, especially in company of strangers. She became very shy and sort of froze. She was very wooden. A lot of her senses didn't work together, so she was uncoordinated and she couldn't hear and formulate a response at the same time.
Jacinthe was finally diagnosed with autism and anxiety disorder.
It was terrifying to look at the future when we were gone, what would happen to her.
So Lori set about helping Jacinthe cope in a world that overwhelmed her. She took her daughter everywhere, but Jacinthe paid no attention to her surroundings. Until one day, when something unexpected broke through Jacinthe's shell.
We were driving along one of the back roads and there were some horses in the field. And she was looking out the window and then she turned to me and she said, "Mama, those ponies are going to be there when we come back, aren't they?" And for her to make any kind of a comment, well, it was astonishing.
Lori wondered, could horses be the key to unlocking Jacinthe's inner world? To find out, Lori took her to a special stable in their area, run by the Pacific Riding for the Disabled Association. This was the beginning of a miracle in Jacinthe's life, thanks to a man known to be a horse whisperer.
Someone from Pacific Riding for the Disabled Association phoned me and said they were wanting to do a pilot project with horse trainer named Dan Franklin, and he was actually a horse communicator. He spoke the horse's language, and what they wanted to do was give her some horsemanship experience.
Equine communication is the language of the horse. Horses talk in a silent language. They use a lot of body language, a lot of intuition. I speak to them in their own language.
Horse whispering is a method of communicating with horses in the same way they communicate with each other. Relying solely on body language and intuition, a horse can be guided to move in a specific direction, stop or come closer, all without the aid of a halter or lead. Amazingly, Dan has found that horse whispering speaks to children with autism.
Kids with autism are always within themselves, within their own language. And that's a very easy way to communicate with horses because they're always within their own language. What the horse does is brings the true self out of the child and gives them a direction to go when no direction else seems possible. The horse does not judge them. They don't laugh at them. They just be part of them.
Dan thought working with his horse Rocky might help Jacinthe connect with the outside world.
When Jacinthe entered the round pen, she was very shy. She had what they call dead eyes. They just look right through you. She didn't blink. There was no facial expression. And when she walked up to the horse, her movements were very slow.
Okay, Jacinthe, just stand over here.
She walked into the round pen very hesitantly, and I could see that she was just overwhelmed by the stress of the whole situation. Maybe this was just a waste of a day, a waste of time, and I just felt really sad that here was another limitation.
Okay, just stand over here and ask that horse to be with you.
I had her stand in the center of the pen, And the horse was giving me all the direction that this girl was very withdrawn.
Riveted to the middle of the pen, Gisante was now so distraught, Rocky became just a blur spinning around her as she retreated into her inner world.
I watched her struggling. She had shut down. She wasn't able to perceive anything from around her. She just, like when an old car floods and you can't get it to start because there's too much gas gone into it. She had too much sensory input had gone in and her brain had flooded. So she didn't respond to anything.
Nothing was working. Nothing was working, and I felt the blood rush from the tip of my toes up into my mind, thinking, I have to help this girl. And I literally had to take her and bodily move her towards the horse. And she just looked at me. And so I actually showed her what I wanted done.
What I need you to do is to put your hands on this horse, okay? You go real slow on him, and you keep your hands just off him, so you're not touching him.
She got down towards the flank of the horse, and she started moving over his hip. Then all of a sudden, she blinked, and she was there. Yeah, she was there. I had her.
Right on. Hey, that's great.
I had goosebumps all over my body. I had to walk away. As I talk about it now, it's hard.
Okay, let's feel your hands. Let's feel your hands. Woo! Jeez, those are roaring.
And she just connected right up to that horse, and that was the horse's way of telling her that I can help you, but you have to let me help you, and you have to meet me halfway. And when Gisante did meet Rocky halfway, that's when she looked at me and smiled.
Mysteriously, Gisante had broken through the invisible barrier separating her world from Dan's. She was alert, looking right at Dan and completely responsive.
Right, look at that salt. I like that.
After Gisante came out of the pen, Laurie began to notice a transformation taking place.
It took a couple of days for it to sink in that Gisante was different. But she was different. She was much more spontaneous. She would laugh at jokes.
You did so good.
It was like she came to life. It was wonderful.
And then Laurie experienced something very special, something she had never dared hope for.
She said, I love you, Mama. And it was the first time that she'd ever said that.
She's one of my best students. The things she has taught me are just amazing. She's given me a different energy and a different pathway that I never thought was ever possible within my own language. And I know her and I will be communicating with horses for the rest of our life.
Trot on.
Gisante's life has really changed because she can communicate with horses.
All right.
The miracle in this story is we had a child who was unable to relate to the outside world. And now we have a young woman who is filled with confidence. She's filled with grace. She's patient. She's loving. And she relates to people. We love her very much.